恭喜发财, my fellow wealth hackers. Happy New Year, and I wish you all wealth and prosperity. Does money buy happiness? Well, I wish you wealth because having money, in my experience, can buy happiness. Here's a quick story. One of my friends has 3 kids. One is disabled. They don't have a lot of money. And one day she posted on her Facebook how she was fundraising for Easter seals. And those who hit a target fundraising goal got to go skate with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I clicked on the link, made an anonymous donation for the difference between what she had raised and the goal. A few weeks later, she posted on her Facebook how her family was skating with the Maple Leafs at the Easter Seal skate, including pictures with their kids posing with Michael Nylander, Dale Sittler, Morgan Riley, etc. For those who don't know, those are like some of the stars of the team and past stars of the team. To me, life is about experiences, and it makes me happy to play a part, even if it's a small part, and having a chance at giving other people a chance at a once-in-a-lifetime experience. In the absence of money, no Easter Seal skate. My friend's husband, who is a Montreal Canadiens fan, he's nowhere to be seen in any of the pictures, so maybe he can do part 2 with Easter Seal with the Habs or something. Anyways, if you're a good person, then forget about whatever self-limiting beliefs you have about yourself and go out there and be successful. Your family depends on it. Forget about what negative people tell you and learn from those who are successful. The truth about real estate investing is everyone has self-limiting beliefs at the beginning, especially at the beginning. I've met them all, specifically my investor clients, my novice investor clients. I've worked with them through their careers, and I've seen some of them become dynamos, owning 10 or more properties. Everyone starts somewhere. Just believe in yourself that you can overcome any sort of challenges you think you have, especially the ones in your head. Speaking of being a successful investor, even if it's just a side hustle, my research still points to real estate investing as being the best asset class to generate wealth. If anyone would like to come on and challenge me on that, please do. I actually welcome contrarian opinions, except for CMHC. I don't know where they're coming from. This has to be based in fact, folks. The ability to cash flow and refinance to purchase more properties makes real estate the best investment for building wealth, in my experience at least. My team at the iWin Real Estate team teaches the number one investment strategy in real estate: legal basement apartments. I know I have 3 myself. I think it's 3 myself in my own portfolio. To register for the next free event, go to www.investortraining.ca. Enter your name and email, and you'll receive email updates about the upcoming events. Cash flow, however, is not what it used to be. Rents have not kept up with real estate prices. I think anyone who's been following prices around Toronto area or Vancouver area, or actually even like Halifax and Montreal, Moncton, New Brunswick, real estate prices are rocking up in most major cities of Ontario of Canada. Sorry, some cities are not doing as nearly as well. So I'd like to say that things are largely predictable. Just follow the flow of immigrants. Anyways, so yeah, cash flow is not kept up in terms of real estate prices. However, my mentee, Joel Arndt, with no prior experience and only $10,000 to invest, manages to cash flow $400 per month using his phone. If you'd like a free demonstration of how Joel did this, plus an overview of Stock Hacker Academy, simply register for our next and final demo that we have planned, www.stockhackeracademy.ca/demo. Again, that's www.stockhackeracademy.ca/demo. I only have one more planned before our March program starts, so don't delay. If Joel, a millennial with no prior experience, no educational background in finance, and only limited capital with $10,000 can cash flow $400 a month using a smartphone, you need to check this out. There's nothing to lose. And speaking of Stock Hacker Academy, we, including Cherry and I, are proud to announce we are giving away 2 tickets to the March 5th Stock Hacker Academy program. It's a 12-month program for anyone who's down on their luck, especially my fellow landlords who are having a tough time, either with tenants, vandalism, non-payment of rent, delays at the landlord-tenant board. All you have to do is tell us what happened. Go to www.stockhackeracademy.ca/story. Leave your name, email, and tell us what happened. We will announce the winners by next episode, so don't delay. You only have a few days from listening to this to submit your stories before we pick winners. FYI, I've already given away the program to at least 2 in-need wealth hackers. One is an everyday hero, a firefighter, father of 4, and husband who almost died on the job. He was responding to a warehouse fire, and there was combustible gas products in those canisters, and canisters that were improperly stored. Skids full of them. So those exploded, which leveled the warehouse, causing it to cave in, and also cave in on my friend, nearly killing him. Number 2, a commercial airline pilot, father of 2, and real estate investor who's been laid off. He's a commercial pilot, right? He flew planes full of people. Anyways, so he's been laid off for quite some time now. His collective tenants are not paying him rent, and the landlord tenant bureau is doing nothing about it. I should really call it the landlord. I should really remove the L. The tenant board is doing nothing about it. I'm keeping tabs on them to make sure they follow through. Free is nice. However, when free, whatever is free is often not valued. In my experience, even I fall asleep while watching my brother's Netflix account, but I've never ever fallen asleep while watching a movie that I paid for, rented, or if I bought tickets to go see it in person in the theater. So enough about me. On to this week's show. I've been friends with Aaron Moore for quite some time. What most don't know Aaron, but he's very successful, and he's even a nicer guy. Most don't know who he is because he doesn't have a large social media presence. He doesn't have doesn't do networking meetings like some people. He's quietly doing deals and just crushing it. In 2020 alone, Aaron did 36 deals, including 10 flips. So he wholesaled straight out. He straight wholesaled 26 deals. 10 deals he flipped, and flipping means he sold them as well. So very busy to do all that in just 1 year. In this episode, Aaron is kind enough to share some tips for all those new wholesalers that are out there. A lot of us have made the observation that I think there's been a lot of real estate courses that are out there. So there seems to be more new wholesalers than ever. So Aaron is kind enough to give some tips on how they can have lasting power in this business. He's also shared his path, the path that he followed to build out his own team. I know I took a ton of notes in this interview, and I hope you do too. So without further ado, I give you Aaron Moore. Hi, Aaron. What's keeping you busy these days?
Hey, everyone. Well, it's New Year. We're in lockdown here, so it's my daughter that's keeping me busy. She's homeschooled all of a sudden.
So you're busy homeschooling, and you don't have time for real estate because there's nothing to be done in real estate too, right? Because it's a lockdown, so that economy's all shut down, right?
Well, that's wrong. I got my sales guys out on 2 appointments today. They're going to buy 2 houses probably today.
Really?
Yeah. Real estate's an essential service, right? So here we go.
Awesome. And then how busy? So what has happened then in the pandemic? Were you busier, less busy?
We've been busy during the pandemic, but it's a lot of it for me is just choice, right? I'm growing the business. I'm doing more marketing, hiring more. So it's my choice, but so it's hard to say whether it's exactly the pandemic. There are definitely we bought houses, I'd say, specifically because of the pandemic and pandemic issues, such as not wanting. It's like an example: a senior mother lives in a condo, and it's a son's condo, and he wants us to just sell it easy, make life easy for the mother, and just sell it a bit cheaper, make it easy. So some of these sales are pandemic related, others just the regular ugly houses, people with broke, people with problems. All the usual stuff.
Interesting. So pandemic actually created some opportunity that probably wouldn't have been there before.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely houses we bought that's, I would say, really specific to pandemic issues.
Interesting. And then was the how was the property then? Did they fit more of the ugly house criteria, or were they?
Yeah, some of the pandemic ones were more the not. I'm not going to say they were beautiful, but just a pleasant lived-in house. Of course they don't, to sell to us, no one freshly paints or cleans up or anything, but nothing. I would not call some of these ugly houses. No.
Now, if you think back to February, March, then what was your sense of the market? Were you on hold? Were you thinking sell everything?
No.
Were you thinking let's pour more money in?
Pour more money in. I just I just had the plan to grow my business in 2020, so I just went with the plan. So COVID or not, doesn't matter. But yeah, if there's, recession, COVID, if there's problems for people in general and houses, then there's more need for us, I suppose. We're here to like solve the challenges people have with their houses. So,
Mhm.
you know, it's just fine for us. Like
Interesting.
this business is fine in a recession or regular times. There's always gonna be problems, but I think, sometimes there's more and less problems. And I would say COVID, there's probably more problems. But then, the government stepped in to pay everyone's mortgages and provide all this relief. So there's a mix of things, right?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Landlords have done pretty well with the government bailouts to our tenants, who in turn pay us our rent. It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy, and it's not to say it's perfect, because I know people who don't have their rent. But it's been, for the vast majority, it's been quite good. Uh, so think back again to February, March. Did your
Yeah.
pricing change at all in terms of what you had to buy the house for? Did you
Yeah.
build in a buffer or bigger buffer?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely back, February, March, April, May, probably June, even last year, maybe even July, we were offering less. So, we were building in more buffers, you know, we're just more conservative on our prices. And also in the wholesaling part of our business, we did notice investors were much more cautious. They, they weren't, everyone was sort of sitting on the fence around, March, April, May. So we had properties were wholesaling that took a long time to wholesale, or there was just less interest on them, things of that nature.
Right. Which is funny, because the amateur investor is the one who doesn't have anything, but they know everything.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to buy at the bottom of the market. So where were do those people show up? Did the guy or the gal that said, I'm going to buy the bottom of the market, did they come by? Like, because you're wholesaling, you're
Yeah, I
offering
know.
probably, what, in hindsight, the best
So,
deal you could get in the last
some good deals. Yeah.
year.
Yeah. But
There's some.
no, people kind of backed off and kind of pressed the pause button. They're like, well, I want to wait a few months, see what happens. And of course, we know what happened. The market,
It's like a
ramped
U-turn.
back up in second half of 2020.
Yeah. Real estate was a V-shaped recovery, as they call it. So
Yeah.
the right side of the V went much higher.
Yes. Yeah. Way higher than previous.
So for Aaron, you haven't been on the show for a bit, and I think we've added a couple of viewers. We used to be like 12 listeners. I said viewers, 12 listeners. I think we're about 18, 21-ish now.
Oh, yeah.
Could you give folks a bit of an overview of your business?
Sure. So I have been, people know me as a wholesaler because that's what the public sees. We do wholesale a lot of houses around Ontario. In addition to that, I've been flipping a lot of houses over the years. I've built up some rental properties, but and also the part of the business I'm looking to scale up is the wholesaling business as well. So, I've hired a team. I think we have 5 full-time people on board now, and we're looking to do more. Grow throughout Ontario, do more deals per year, and just keep cranking it up every year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so we were talking before we were recording. We're talking about we were joking about how whenever there's a wholesaling course out, all of a sudden there's all these Facebook posts and Instagram posts, people building buyer lists and stuff like that. So you've been around. What year did you start?
I think I started 2007, but I've been doing this full time since 2008. So yeah, I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of wholesalers come and go.
Mostly go, right? Well, you've seen a lot come.
Yeah, I've seen a lot go. That's for sure. And I've been in rooms, a decade ago with hundreds of people in Ontario learning about wholesaling. And I remember being in one room where the majority of people are asking, "Can you even do this in Ontario?" like a decade ago, right? And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've done a few deals. I wasn't doing as much as I am now back then." But it's funny to see how far it's come from back then. Like people just wondering if you can even do it back then, and it was all skepticism. But yeah, but I've seen it over the years, and some group will come to town, put on seminars and have radio ads about learning how to invest in real estate with no money down and do wholesaling.
How,
So
how
then
to
after,
flip how to flip vacant land is my favorite headline these days.
oh yeah, flip it. Sure, why not?
That'll be easy to do. there's lots of land that you can just flip because no one wants it.
Yeah, yeah. So hey, there's all kinds of avenues. But yeah, when these seminars come to town, then we get a bunch, like people Google, and then we come up, and then we get a bunch of calls like, can they add us to their buyers list and all this sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and just people just want to pick our brains because
it's want to get into your funnel. Yeah,
yeah,
they want to see your deals. Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
So before we were talking before we start recording, and part of the reason why I created the show was the title of the show was "Truth About Real Estate." So I wanted to ask you some of the truths about wholesaling, because I kind of feel bad, like you said, like we were discussing, like a lot of people take these courses, they pay good money. Joel, who works for me, paid $10,000 for the course that he took. He spent a few thousand more on flyers. He was only successful and able to do one deal, which doesn't come anywhere near covering the cost of just his materials and education. So could you share some of the realities, maybe some of before we were recording, for example, past guest Matt Piche shared on the show, when he does a mailer, his advice was, his experience was he has to do at least 7 mailers before he gets any results. I don't know if many of these beginners understand that. Can you share some of the realities, so that people who are trying to do this, so they can survive the early parts?
Yeah, like I still remember when I started, right? So we all just start somewhere. So
everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and you start with your first deal, right? Mm-hmm. So back, like, listen, at some point in life you got to work hard as part of it. So in my early days, so I always kind of went bigger than a lot of people. Simple things like, we're aware of these bandit signs, like you see them on corners in the ground, or some naughty people put them where they're not supposed to be, on the backs of intersections and things like that. So, when I did it, I had probably, I printed 1,000 of these things. And I did them like all over the GTA, like every major intersection. I hired a couple like students, and I would go out with them for a little bit, but they'd finish the night. I'd start the night and they'd finish it. And it doesn't take long to like blanket the GTA. So you just go a little bigger than other people. And when I send mailers, yeah, it's going to cost you $1,000, $2,000, but I'm sending out thousands of flyers, and you got to think about the neighborhoods you're sending to and the timing of when you're doing it. You don't want to get lost in the Christmas mail or anything. You don't want to be sending out a bunch of letters right before Christmas and New Year's. So you got to think of a lot of things. Like the same thing, you wouldn't want to put up a bunch of outdoor signs during political season when you got the street signs, the yard signs stuck in the ground everywhere either, right?
Right.
So you got to think about what you're doing. Like there's all kinds of factors that will lower your returns. And you don't want to put all your eggs into one basket. Like let's say you blanket a neighbor. Like what I've typically done in mailings is I'll blanket a neighborhood, because that's in Canada. It's hard to get these targeted lists easier. You can certainly make targeted lists yourself by going around finding the ugliest properties. But I just blanket neighborhoods. But I'm going to choose to blanket an older neighborhood with older housing stock, but also neighborhoods where there might be opportunities to rent out these houses, whether it's a single family rental, or probably most of the time we're looking for 2-unit type houses where we can divide it up easily and maybe a little bit cheaply, like the bungalows or your side split houses, and make a pretty easy 2-unit because the separate entrance and stairs are all set up for it. So we're targeting those kind of neighborhoods. We're certainly not targeting a 10-year-old subdivision, newer houses, or these 2-story, 4-bedroom, 2-car garage type houses, because these aren't good for rental properties. Typically the numbers don't work well, and new houses are less likely to have problems. Like 80% of what we're buying are fixer-uppers. Are to some degree, these are ugly houses that need repairs, maintenance, or just updating, or just total redo. So you gotta, there's a lot of things to think about in marketing. But let's just pretend you mail out 5,000 letters. Maybe another house buyer mailed them, a week before. Like you can't control everything. So, you got to diversify a bit. You got to, just think about a few angles, and you can't be discouraged when you spend a couple $1,000 and get barely any results. You got to keep going. You got, either do a different area or do a different type of marketing, and just, it's partly numbers game, but it's also some repetition. And maybe one thing to mention, like these days, people are big on the internet now. So, I've built over the years a big internet presence for my company, GTA House Buyers. So people, if I send someone a letter, some people will just call from the letter, but I think the majority these days are going to look us up online, spend some time reading about us, or do they feel comfortable with us, and then they're going to call us. So, what do people find when they Google you is a question. So, is that going to impact, whether they find nothing or whether they find good things or very little, it may affect you.
So how long should a neighborhood test be for? Because this is what I worry about the new investor, is that they give up too early.
Yeah.
It's 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. At what point should the test end and they need to move on?
Yeah.
Just roughly. I know this isn't an exact science.
What I've had success with is so there's a couple. What I do is I blanket neighborhoods, so an area with that older housing stock, potential for rentals, and then I'll move on to another one. And it might be a year or two before I get back to the area I've already mailed. So I'm not really a repetition guy. I'm there to, get the low hanging fruit, whoever's ready at that time. But there's also people who will keep your letters on hand for years. I had one person call me back 7 years after getting the letter. So, I'm more, move on. But then there's another case. Another thing we do is I do it about twice a year. We have a list of just, it's ugly houses. It's basically ugly houses. Like from the street, we can tell it's neglected. It needs a bunch of work. So we have a list of these, and we mail those out twice a year. And we'll just keep mailing them until they're beautiful or something. Until we see they're good looking.
Oh, interesting. Because that from a money standpoint, from a flyer, from a postcard standpoint, that's not that expensive because you're selective, but it takes more time to build that list because you have to know where those houses are.
Yeah. I was just about to say something, but I can't remember what it is. So I'm sure it was great.
Yeah. What about some like grassroots stuff? So say you bought a house and you're in the middle, you're renovating it. Do you like knock on doors or door hangers or anything like that?
I do. We certainly. I haven't knocked on doors before, just a little bit.
Especially not now.
Not now. We're not big into not knocking on doors since COVID, but I have knocked on doors before. It's never been a big strategy of mine. I'm more of the sit at home and do mass marketing. But yeah, if you're in the neighborhood, you're walking past, or like often in this case, we'll go to an appointment, and we'll, in the same street or something, we'll see another ugly house. So what we do these days is typically just put a letter in the mailbox if we're in the neighborhood. That's what we're doing. But in the past, we have knocked on the door to see who's living there, see who will answer. A lot of those houses, people will be peeking out their window at you, like, and not answer the door these days. Just a type of person. But yeah, some people will answer the door, and you can get better scoop once you're actually talking with the person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But another thing as well is if you have specific houses that you want to buy, then you can market to them more. Like every few months, send something in the mail. You can probably, like, for some houses, you can Google or look them 411, this reverse search, and find their phone numbers. You can call them as well. We do that. We call people out of the blue, and see if they want to sell their house. It's once again, that's more targeted. So if we see the house is some ugly house in a neighborhood, well, if we can Google their phone number, we'll call them. Like it's probably maybe a 20 to 30% chance we'll find their phone number, but we're not going to find the phone number for every house or anything.
Interesting. And then how is that received when you drop off a letter in someone's ugly house? Do you actually say it's an ugly house?
No,
Your
I
house
don't.
is ugly.
No, I don't say anything of the sort, but I do certainly talk about that. We do renovations and fix up houses, and so they don't have to worry about that.
Amazing. Awesome.
But no, I typically, I can always find weird phone calls I've got in response to sending out letters. I did get a call from the police one time because, the police, so they got a call from some senior lady who were worried we were scammers who were out trying to steal houses or something.
That's so easy to do.
Yeah. The police just called and, I told them we're investors looking to buy. It's what we do. And they said, yeah, I thought so. I just had to do my duty and follow up and do the call because I got the complaint or whatever you want to call it. So
right.
You get some weird calls but in the scheme of things, it's not a big deal. Right. In this business, like you do gotta, someone has to be, I don't know how to put it. You got to be good someone on the team has to be good on the phone. You got to be able to take a wide variety of calls, talk to a wide variety of people. Mm-hmm. And, you will get calls from people who are offended by your letter and, just call you sort of offended and don't want to sell their house and don't mail me again and this sort of thing. But it's a minority.
Imagine they called, you open up like the neighborhood newspaper, local newspaper, like, oh, they sent me this. Gotta call them. Oh, the optometrist. I call them. The dentist. They gotta call them.
And every realtor who gives them one of their pretty postcards.
Call. But you stop including.
but it's because we do that typical a handwritten letter sort of look and feel. So some people may think and you do get the calls from people who think we only sent the letter to them. So. I tell them, well, I sent to a fair number of people, but
yeah. I wanted to mention too, because when the cops called you, is people who listen to my show generally know we have nice guests. Like there are people that the cops do need to worry about. People do need to worry about. Like let's just put it out there. There are people that will step on their mother to make a buck. We've both met those people.
Yeah.
Let's not be naive. Anytime there's money to be made, it's going to always going to attract unsavory people, right?
Yeah, and I hear that about real estate. And I've come across some. I was just thinking, should I talk about people who've been to jail at all on this podcast?
Let's just avoid names so we don't get sued.
Okay, but I did. I did. This was over a decade ago now, or around a decade ago. But I invested a little bit with a house flipper who was going to do a flip, and I learned some lessons here. So I lost money. Let's just say that. But on the night he was going to use my money for a flip. Okay, so what I find out weeks later after the alleged closing date was, the house burnt down, and then later on, the sum of it is. He firebombed the house to burn it down, but the night before closing because he couldn't or didn't. He basically wanted, for whatever, he took the investor's money and didn't buy the house. So he took the money, and he went to jail. So, so he firebombed the house that he was supposed to flip the night before closing.
At the time.
No, so he didn't have to close on it. And
that was the best plan they had. That was plan B.
That's plan B. Like I don't know what happened, right? But
why not just return people's money and suck it up?
I have no idea.
Forfeit your deposit on the house.
Who knows what happened? All I know is that happened, and he went to jail.
It's like, this will cost me a couple of grand, but no, I can't. We got firebomb the house.
Yeah, and this was a guy who certainly talked a good game, and he was known in the real estate community back then. And he was, he spoke at events, he was coaching people, and all this sort of thing. So Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Nice.
I think for the
Local
beginners that
Ontario. Yeah.
I think the yeah. And so I think investors, if you're going to invest with someone else, you have to ask them what their plan B is. And if it's firebombing the property, don't give them your money.
Yeah. Uh,
Plan B is usually like rent it out. Because actually, let's
anyways.
talk about that. As a wholesaler, you don't always have everything lined up, right? You don't know what's
Right.
going to happen. You don't know if COVID's going to happen once you've taken possession of a property. So once you've bought the property, what are your plans and then possible exits? And even before that, like you mentioned, that you've flipped, you've bought, you renovated, you've held. Um, I always like to ask people, like, how do they make that decision? How does that decision
Yeah.
process work?
Yeah.
And no different for um, like for any developer, for example. We have some friends who develop and hold. We have some developers that
Hmm.
sell off the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like you and I probably, well, at least I started for sure. I started as a buy and hold investor, buy,
Yeah.
renovate, hold, refinance, all those sorts of things. I'm asking a lot of questions, but let's start there. For like for a beginner investor, or so you've wholesaled, you've come to terms with the property. What is actually your thought process behind now?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? Because actually, you
So,
probably already had that worked out before you actually write the offer.
yeah, it's typically with wholesaling, we're the majority of houses we're buying at a price that we feel we or someone can flip and make money. There are some as well that we're buying at a price where the flip, probably may not work, but it's still a discounted rental property. So it'll work well as a rental property. So those are the two typical options. And well, for me right now, um, it's often it's a matter of time because I'm growing a business. I'm doing wholesaling because a flip takes a lot longer, it takes a lot more time, money, resources. So right now, that's my thought process. But if I look back years ago, a thought process certainly was when I started out. I have a small buyers list. The money I can make wholesaling is typically smaller than you can make flipping. So definitely, when I was starting out, I want to flip some and wholesale some. So I do a mix of the two. And then there would just over the years deals come up where maybe I think it's a great single family rental. Like every rental property I've bought and held on to was all like the BRR method. I bought them ugly, renovated, rented, refinanced. So just over the years, I pick up a few of these here and there, and I keep them as rentals. Just they fit the geography, the type of property just works for me. But kind of the plan, I don't know, plan A or what you can do with any property is wholesale it. So, and it takes the least amount of time, and the money you make depends on a lot of things. Once you've been doing it for years, like me, you've got a big buyers list, and you're known in the industry. Then your wholesale fees are probably higher than they were when you first started. So it makes more sense to wholesale. But I know I still come across houses that I want to flip just because they're close to me. I'm sitting on money. I've got I want to keep my renovators and tradespeople busy. Keep doing my flipping thing. So, so there's a few things that go on in the thought process, but I don't know. You can always wholesale if it's a decent deal, and you can flip as a backup if it's a half decent deal. And then there will be some that you or someone will want to keep as a long-term rental.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And is there a portion of those that you refer out to realtors?
There is
because I'm sure you get some nice ones that don't make sense.
Yeah, so some of my leads I'll refer out to realtors, but that is a minority. It does happen.
Really?
Yeah, every year we're doing it. We do it every year,
Right,
but
right.
it is a minority. I just like the people who contact us. They're not typically looking for that realtor option. Everyone knows about the realtor option, um, they're calling us for the alternative, right?
Right, right.
Um, so I don't know. It's maybe, it's something we could probably do better at is help more of our leads,
Mm-hmm.
connect with a good realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And we do it. We do it every year, but
Mm-hmm.
just not, it's not that much. And we, honestly, if I think about it, we could do a better job at it.
Right, right. We actually had
Yeah.
a wholesaler that we work with. The seller was a hoarder, but the
Yeah.
house was only like 6, 8 years old. A
Yeah.
new subdivision house, so it was really nice and it was pricey for our market, right?
Yeah.
Because it was too nice, and so they were just honest with her. You'll do better with the realtor, right? And they were like, no, this is, I can't show it like this. Like, no, 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 we can sell
Yeah.
it. It didn't show well, and we would have
Yeah.
gotten way more money if it wasn't a hoarder house. But we got her way more money than she was willing to let it go for.
Yeah.
And you get that too, right? Because you've actually you're like the nice guy in your mastermind group, not our mastermind group, but I know I know we have mutual American friends who call you like the
Yeah.
nice, like, oh, you're so Canadian.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think another thing that is important in this business is do keep a focus on the seller and helping out the seller. And we certainly do many times recommend that they sell with a realtor. Um, and we will ask them if they want a referral to a realtor. When it comes to that, yeah, sometimes we'll refer them to a realtor we work with. A lot of the times people do, have a family friend realtor, or know someone or some local person or something like this. But it's something we can do better on. And it's like, I do like to keep a high priority is just help the seller, offer them options, give them what's best for them,
Mm-hmm.
and let them choose.
Right.
Because there has been a ton of times where I'll talk with the seller and I'll say, hey, exactly you said, you'll get a lot more money by selling with a realtor. And if you do just this little bit of work, clean up and a little bit of renos, then that's your best bet.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're the easy way out. You'll get less money, and a lot of them choose the easy way out. But I and we do a combination as well, like because we do some like loans, so we will lend people money, and we've done so one sort of scenario we've done multiple times is we lend the money, and they fix up their house, like so the money typically goes towards some renos, holding costs because usually they're in a tough financial situation, and then they'll sell with a realtor, which is typically Christina, my wife, who's a realtor. So we kind of package it all together: a loan, selling with a realtor. Maybe we'll refer them to trades people, painters, a flooring person, a cleaner, that sort of thing, and then they sell with a realtor. And usually they're very quite happy if we can package it all up like that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because there's not many people like that. Often the scenario is the reason they're calling my company is because they're behind on their mortgage and they're heading towards foreclosure. So a lot of the times we're giving these loans to stop foreclosure. So we get a very happy seller, and they're not arguing with us about the 2.5% realtor commission. They're not trying to get it down to 1.5 or 2. They're happy to pay full commission to a realtor when you package all this together.
Right. When you do more value add.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like loan and renovations are not easy for people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, the average realtor is not offering people 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 loan for 6 months so they can do whatever they want to do. So
I think we should start doing that too.
yeah.
I actually first saw Ian doing it. Ian Zabo. Shout out to Ian
Yeah.
Zabo because he's a nice guy too.
Yeah.
Well, I saw him promoting it. That's how I first saw it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who was doing it first, but well, you know Ian.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Ian quite well. Yeah. done deals with him, wholesaled properties to him over the years.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, because
So
he
probably
did lots.
Ian, am I allowed to mention that, Ian? I'm sure it's fine.
I think he likes us enough that we have some leeway to mention his name.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that's I can't speak for the other wholesalers out there, the ones that are taking courses, because unfortunately the way that these things are sold is, I'm not I'm not guilt free on selling opportunities to people because there is money to be made. But like you're one of the nice guys. Like you're not here to take grandma's last dollar versus uh, like we were talking before. Like beginners are just looking to hit home runs. They don't really think
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah. I think I do see it a lot because people, like a new wholesaler will get a deal under contract and then, they're looking for a buyer, right? So they're calling us GTA house buyers and they're asking us if we want to buy it. And I do see these, they're just too optimistic. They want to make too much money on the first deal. Like the typical scenario is they got this 100+ year old kind of junker house and, and they're headed, you can get it looking great for a 30,000 reno. I don't want to get into their numbers, but they've got this sort of ideal number spreadsheet that's just ideal to make a bunch of money for whoever's the person who can do a $30,000 reno on a 100-year-old house. It's not me though. But and then it's just they want to make like 50 grand wholesale fee, and they're just not flexible. Like, why don't you start smaller? Build up, kind of create momentum for yourself. Charge. It doesn't matter what you make on your first deal. Like, is this the only deal you're going to do, or do you plan to do 2 or 3 or 100 deals, right? So just get a deal under your belt. Don't really care how much you make on the first deal because it's not really the point. Is like just do it, get it done, and add some value to someone. And in my own history, my first deal, I can sort of call it my first deal. It was because it's sort of half a deal. But the first deal I put together, I made no money on it. I just want to make things happen. So it was at some little townhouse in Kitchener. It was actually another investor who had it under contract that was looking for a buyer, and I had buyers because I was building a buyer's list, like new wholesalers do, which is a good thing. And I had a buyer for it. I connected him with a buyer, and I just like to make people happy. I'm just talking. You can either go pay tens of thousands of dollars for courses, which is nothing wrong with if it makes sense, or you can just do it and make a bit of money, make no money, whatever the case is, and learn a ton. So there's all different ways to do it. And on my first deals, I wasn't making a bunch of money, but it grows. The more you do it, the more you're going to make. And you can, like I mentioned earlier, if you think you're not going to make much wholesaling it, then hey, flip it yourself and keep a bigger chunk of the change.
Right. At what point did you hire your first staff? Because most people, I'm guessing, do everything themselves.
Yeah. Like the staff, like I have had a great handyman, probably for at least 10 years now. So he's sort of not a staff member, but he's great. He's like kind of an assistant, a courier, handyman, and he just does a ton of different stuff for me. So he's been helping me, and his wife helps me a bit with different things like shopping and whatever, just getting stuff done. But I got a part-time assistant not until 2017. And then I think my first full-time person.
You waited that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, it helped having this handyman who works with me. Sometimes part-time, sometimes it seems full-time, but then the first full-time person was 2018.
Was it the full? Sorry, who was that?
First full-time person was Tomomi, like an office manager for me in 2018. Right. Yeah.
And then at what point do you hire a salesperson?
Pretty quickly.
The next question. Sorry, I should have asked a question in between. Who is the next hire after the office manager?
Definitely in this business, like a salesperson, someone who's going to take the calls, talk with all these potential sellers, go see the houses, make offers, just deal with the sellers basically.
Right. So it's kind of like an inside and outside salesperson. Then.
Yeah, inside and outside. Yeah.
Right,
just
right.
handle the leads and the sales and go out and get the contracts.
Is there a level of money that should be coming in that you feel that you can now afford a
Hmm.
salesperson?
Well, I'm definitely a bootstrap guy, so I kind of did everything myself until it reached a certain point. Uh, you know, I but hey, it's up to the person. Like I'm more comfortable if you're multiple six figures a year between flips and wholesale, then you're but it's really up to you what you want to, how fast you want to go, and how, as long as you're clear on the potential and what you're capable of growing, then
Mm-hmm.
there's the opportunity is up to the individual and what you do with it. So
Fascinating, because I'm like not the bootstrap guy.
yeah.
I'm like, how do I make someone else do this? Who, not
Yeah,
how, right? Who, not how.
exactly. Yeah.
And now you have
Yeah. I
two
got
inside sales, two
two
inside and out,
salespeople now.
right?
Yeah.
But they do both the role. They do both roles, inside and outside. As
Yeah.
in, they take incoming calls,
The,
they'll
the
make
newer,
outgoing calls.
the newer salesperson is more focused on being the inside salesperson and more like the backup outside salesperson.
Right.
So we do have it slightly different. Yeah.
Now, is it because your marketing's better? Is there more demand from sellers? What do you think it is?
Well, yeah, I'm just, yeah, like this year, the second salesperson was just hired recently. Um, so we are growing that.
Mm-hmm.
So like at this point, I think we're a couple quarters away from having, let's say, the capacity to have two full-time salespeople. So the second salesperson is in a role doing other things as well. So helping us build up the capacity as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the listeners' benefit, like I think the marketing term is there's only mind space. Each person only has memory for two brands, for example. Like,
Right.
for example, if you ask someone to name a cola company, it's usually Coke or Pepsi. So name a shoe. For me, I'll say Nike or Reebok or Nike Adidas, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Right. And when I think wholesaler, I think of yourself and one other person,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I just want the listener to understand how high in regards I hold you.
Oh, thank you.
Even though you don't have a great Instagram account.
Yeah, I know. Even though I'm not much into social media, but
Yeah. None of us were on Facebook when we met, right?
yeah,
Whenever
I wasn't. Yeah,
like no one was on social media. Like,
yeah,
if anything, we tweeted more, I think, just because it was a good medium for news, right? Not so much for socializing, but
yeah.
the old school stuff apparently
Well,
works.
at some point we can add it in if we feel the need and have the capacity.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, awesome. What are some of the criteria? Actually, I think you shared it already. Oh, this has been coming up. So, like we talked about before we were recording, there's things out there that are sold, and then I want this show to be like, okay, what's it really like, right? Like, for example, a lot of programs that are sold are around joint venturing and so like no money down real estate, right? And often what they teach is to give up a lot of the equity in deals, right? You give common models, you give up half the equity, and then you do all the work, right? They put in the capital, yes, sometimes credit, sometimes renovation money, but then like yourself or myself as the investor, we have to do all the work, and which is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a lot of work to only get half the deal.
Yeah.
Is that your partnership model with your investors, or are you more the private lending side, private borrowing?
Well, I get these days I'm all over the joint venture and spectrum. So I've got some now where I find the deal and uh, I put in some of the money and that's all my involvement. So they do all the work.
Nice.
I make a usually 50/50. So that sort of thing. But there's other ones like for my long-term rentals. I've done JVs where I bring in and another thing is I haven't done that many JVs. So a lot, like I talked about bootstrapping, a lot of my rentals, I do have a couple of JVs with family, and yeah, they put in, they might have qualified for a mortgage and put the money in, but most of them, we've refinanced fairly quickly, so they get a lot of their money out pretty quick, anyways. And a lot of the rentals, we just bootstrapped and built it over years, right? So we don't have that many JVs. When I do my own flips, my preference is just to get private lenders. If I'm doing the work, I'll probably won't JV it because I'll just get private lenders. I've done private lenders at sort of 90% loan to purchase price because we're buying under market value. So it's, maybe the loan to value is actually 75%, but they'll lend up to 90%. And, you can find lenders who will lend you more. These days, I get loans on my rental properties and second mortgages. So there's different ways to get money, right? Mm-hmm. So it probably for the future, I can see myself doing more where I find the deal, I can put some money into the deal, and someone else does all the work because I've got enough going on.
Yeah, because you can't scale yourself, right?
Yeah, I can't scale myself doing a ton of rental projects. Yeah, at some point, maybe I'll hire a project manager if we want to do more flips per year, but that's not the plan for this year or probably next year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome. Now, personally, I've been on this technology kick lately. I've been researching more about like AI, and because one of the things I love about real estate is it can't be outsourced. Like you can't outsource a home to like India or Philippines or something like that. I can't see AI replacing the need for a home unless we're all actually just in the Matrix, and that's different.
Yeah, who knows?
How are you supposed to prove that you're not?
Yeah,
that's the perfect. Whatever. And we were talking about before we were recording. We were talking about a disruptive business in the real estate space. So, and you have an IT background before you were full time into real estate,
right?
And you've actually done business, and people personally who've done businesses with these disruptive businesses out there.
I think they call them iBuyers down. They're more common in the U.S. right now. The iBuyers.
What is your what? Can you explain for the listener what the iBuyers do? Because I think you have more experience with them than I do.
Yeah,
I just read what they have on the website.
Yeah, and my understanding is probably not quite up to speed, but I do have a general understanding. So, I think if you go on some of their websites, they'll have very specific criteria of what they'll buy, but then they'll sort of also have the equation of what you'll net. But so there are some fees and rental costs. So I think generally they try to really simplify the buying process, but they're going to buy at some discount, renovate, and resell. And I have a rough understanding that the company's like making money in the renos and the buy and in the sell with realtors, renovators, so they're making money at different steps of the process. I've also looked at their criteria, and I know I've seen on their websites, they won't buy, I'm sure it's different based on the company, but a lot of them won't buy older homes. So there's a certain age range they'll buy, certain metropolitan areas. And I think it's been maybe a year or two since I really looked into it, but I don't think they were buying in places like Manhattan with the, really high price points. So they might be buying in, say, New Jersey or Phoenix, Arizona, some of these lower price point cities. Mm-hmm. And they're not just buying everywhere. I'm sure they're growing, they're spreading. So I'm not pretending to have kept up on all of it. But I also know some good stories from wholesalers. So wholesalers have told me, wholesalers have bought deals and then sold to these iBuyers, and they've been pleasantly surprised at how much these iBuyers have paid for their junker houses. And I've heard some rumors that I don't know how to put it, but maybe these iBuyers are a little bit have the big dumb company syndrome. So they've got their quotas to make. So they hire maybe inexperienced people who just want to make their quotas and, get their numbers and the profit. So obviously they're losing money on some of the deals they do, but I'm sure they're making money on others, right? So as wholesalers, because I mastermind with people in the U.S. who are wholesalers. So if you can be the seller to the iBuyer and you can get them to lose money on the project or for whatever reason they pay you a good price, then hey, I guess some of these wholesalers just love taking their money and running because they're paying good prices. So,
Right.
they're competition to our industry, but there's ways to work with them as well, obviously. So
That's awesome.
It's interesting. Yeah.
It's interesting in many ways because I just naturally live in fear all the time. So I'm always curious on the threats to my businesses and income and stuff like that. That's why I take this interest in these businesses, and that's why I even put some money with them.
Yeah.
As a hedge.
Just a hedge, yeah. Hedge your real estate.
Just a hedge. But I think like for you and I, because we're in real estate, we don't have as many direct threats as many other people as technology is. It's going to change everything. For example, I don't know if you've seen. It's actually a friend of mine. We were talking about 3D printing and how advanced it is. And like, yeah, he's like, yo, I can build real estate. Like, no, I can't build real estate. I've seen 3D printing. They people print like little trinkets that are like the size of your thumb, right? I can't build a house. He goes, oh no, go do YouTube. So I did a YouTube and I saw them 3D printing, but instead of like plastic, they're using concrete. And they built a 670 square foot garden house out of it, right? It's concrete. So it's solid. And these guys are in Texas. So their weather conditions are worse than ours. They deal with hurricanes, right? And they built it for like $4,000 or $5,000.
Wow.
Right? I know. Wow. And so like whose job's at risk? The framer.
Yeah.
The framer and the bricklayer, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking like these things as in like who, like I'm always worried. Oh, I'm worried about my job, but also my heart aches for people whose jobs are at risk being replaced by technology. So then I'm always trying to be forward thinking to understand these businesses and even invest in some of them that make sense. And then, but the bigger thing is though, is that my thing is that everyone needs to be having multiple streams of income in case one goes sideways.
Yes.
Right. When people say like stocks or real estate or wholesaling or flipping, it's risky. Like, hey, to me, if you only have a single income as a job, for example, to me, that's risky.
Sounds way more risky to me.
Yeah, it's way more risky to me. So what if the real estate market crashes? Well, how many people have lost jobs versus real estate crashes that have happened in Ontario?
Yeah.
So, everyone's idea of risk is different. Mine's obviously different than most, but Aaron, we're running out of time. I want to ask you: is there anything you want to talk about without me asking a question? Anything I'm missing out on? Anything the listener needs to know? Like, what's your outlook on 2021 for real estate? We're still in the middle of a pandemic. We're in the middle of a lockdown right now. That's why you were supposed to come in for lunch today, but we're good law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, we're here on Zoom.
We're here on Zoom. There's no pictures to prove it. We really are on Zoom, folks. But what is your outlook for real estate? Is it changing? Did you set your goals lower this year because we're in the middle of lockdown?
I set my goals higher. So we want to do more this year, do more, make more. We are it's interesting times with the recession and COVID, but demand for GTA houses, I don't think it's going to decline too much ever, as far as I can predict. So I'm quite happy with GTA or Southern Ontario real estate for. It's as secure as anything else I'm gonna get. Just let me know if the government starts turning communist or something and starts taking away our property. But I just hope for a heads up if that ever happens.
I think we'll go digital currency before that happens, so which is already weird.
Yeah. But no, I don't see any reason to panic or anything like that, but I'm optimistic as well. So
yeah,
Who
Well, part of
knows?
it is that you and I, we got lucky owning the right kind of real estate. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, that's actually a question I probably missed out on. Like, what is like the do you have like a price range that you stay within? Do you do like the $2.6 million house in Oakville? The $5 million lakefront property.
Yeah, we did a $2 million house earlier this year, but
Ooh.
price is not really an object. There are limitations, but if we can, once we get to like 2 million or even 1.5, it kind of has to be a no-brainer deal. Like we got to look at it and say we're not losing money on this, like, because we're not buying this thing to lose money. So we better make a decent chunk to take on the risk, because it's just, depending on the location, it's just more risky, right? And
Uh-huh.
there's a lot more money tied up, a lot more. If you got a loan on it, a lot more interest payments, land transfer tax, a lot more, all this sort of thing. So, hey, we'll do it. But what really moves in the wholesaling world is probably the lower priced properties that are good for rentals. And if the lower, I guess in the wholesaling world, you're going to make more money wholesaling a property the lower the price and the less rentals needed. So that combination, if you want to make money, focus on those. But the reality is we'll deal with whatever comes our way. We just got to figure out how to make money on it. We deal with a ton of old century homes and houses that need to be gutted. But there's a whole array and a whole range of the different types of houses, price points, conditions, all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We just did one townhouse in Mississauga. I know Christina just posted about it on Facebook the other day. Like, we just bought it and painted a few walls, and the big difference was staging, just the presentation of the
that
house.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, I misread it. I just thought that she just took over for a really bad agent. What was the story there?
Well, yeah, a bad agent couldn't sell it for months, and then they had
in
to,
this market.
yeah, just, I don't know, it was September, October, and then they reached out to us. We bought it at a good discount, and then we just turned around, presented it better, marketed it better, did a little bit of work, but really not that much. And we were surprised at how much we made. But hey, when you flip a property, that's another point to make. For most of my flipping career, I'm usually surprised by how much I make on every flip, because we're dealing with, you make the house look nicer, you make it nicer, and of course a premium house is always going to sell for more than the average house in the neighborhood, right? So that's what always happens. We're always surprising ourselves that we're selling more than the average of the neighborhood. We're always selling at high prices for the area. It's just because we're making a nice house, presenting it well, and selling it well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So maybe just a word to the people looking for flips out there. Just, you got to be conservative. Just like, buy it, make sure you're not going to lose money. But if your numbers are pretty good and you're going to make a bit of money, you're probably going to be surprised and make more money than you expect. So just get out there and flip some house, and don't be too conservative.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Maybe, and would you say that for the beginner, for sure, like, not for sure, but like, your path is to bootstrap from quite a while. Did you actually do your own renos for a while?
No, that's something I've barely ever done. I have done a little bit, and I probably do a little too much. My skill level is maybe a bit of demo and garbage removal. So that's probably my limits. Yeah.
I'll get hurt doing the demo though.
So it is sometimes fun, like, throwing around the sledgehammer and the crowbar and that sort of thing. Right. But I barely ever got involved in that. That's for sure.
Right. No, the funny thing is, because my ex was in renovations, and she said often, because renovations is like the the lowest skill part of the job.
Yeah.
And she would say homeowners were always like, "Oh, I'll take care of the demo to try to save money." Or their intention was to try to save money.
Yeah.
Like, what they don't understand is it's like a few hours.
Yeah.
Right? Versus it takes the homeowner, they gotta learn how to do it. They gotta buy the stuff. They gotta take the stuff to the dump. Versus demo was like nothing to a professional.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty quick to, it's a lot easier to just destroy than to create, right?
And then, Aaron, can I ask how many wholesale deals you did in 2020?
Wholesale deals, we did a 36. So
Wow.
it's, it's nothing huge, but, um, it keeps us busy.
Busy's good,
Yeah.
fills that funnel. And then how many of those do you think you kept for renovate? Can you break that down actually? How many
Yeah,
were for
actually.
flip and then how many you
Yeah,
kept?
we just reviewed these numbers in the past 2 weeks, and since it's in January here, so flip 10 and wholesale 26 of those.
And then of the flips, how many you flipped them all? As in you sold them all, you didn't keep any?
Yeah, this year didn't keep any as rentals.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just tired of being a
Well,
landlord?
it's sort of just focus this year is, building the transactional part of the business.
Right.
We actually sold a couple rentals. One was just, our worst performing rental, a condo townhouse where the fees were going to go up a lot. So we just sold that one.
Right.
Sold a couple worst performers.
I can appreciate you not being able to keep any when you're flipping 10. Because what happens is that you buy one and then it'll get renovated once the flips are done. And then it probably never gets
Yeah.
renovated. You're
Yeah.
just stuck holding a vacant property.
Yeah. It's, and yeah, like I'm open to keeping one or two this year, or possibly buying an apartment building might speed things up for me, but it's a matter of focus. I haven't wanted to put my focus on it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're doing like over, we were slower the first part of the year before I did hiring. Now we're doing sort of 3 to 6 deals a month. So we're on pace. Like we should be doing 50 deals this year, I'd say, fairly easily. So
Amazing. Aaron, thanks so
we
much
are
for your
looking to
time.
grow.
Looking to grow. And then for anyone who wants to follow along, how can they follow you? We talked about Instagram. Do you guys even have an Instagram? Do you need
Yeah,
an Instagram? I
I'm
see your Facebook's busy already.
we do some stuff on Facebook, but we're not big in the social media, I admit. People can check us out on, I guess, for investors. If people want wholesale properties, they can go to housedealsgta.ca. That's our website where you can put your info, tell us where you want properties, and you'll get email notifications when a property that suits you comes up. So that's housedealsgta.ca. If people want to check out more of the wholesaling, the seller side, they can go to gtahousebuyers.ca. See some of our content there, learn about what we do. Yeah, those are the main ways.
Mm-hmm. And then I want to ask you a bit of a personal question.
Sure.
How are you balancing everything in 2021? Now that we've been through almost a year of a pandemic, how are you going to try to balance things? Because a lot of people, I don't think it's talked about enough, but people are way sensitive these days, right? I don't know if you noticed it. Some people, like, a mutual friend of ours went, I'm not going to argue if he's right or not, but it was just this week that he posted about how Trump is right about everything. And he quoted his lawyer, like Lynn Wood. He quoted his lawyer, Lynn Wood, who's the same guy who got blocked by Parler. I know you don't follow the news. So like there's like this version of Twitter out there. It's called Parler, where basically all the people get blocked on Twitter. That's where they go.
Okay.
So this guy, his comment was so bad that even Parler took it down.
Interesting. Okay.
And this mutual friend of ours posted saying that he's right about how Pence will never be president. Whatever. I'm just quoting stuff, not saying he was right or wrong.
Yeah.
But people seem to be a little bit on edge.
Yeah. And things, we got to be. People are very cautious about this COVID stuff, and we're on lockdown now, so that's certainly something people are being. Everyone has their own, I don't know, preference for COVID rules, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm personally not too worried, but if I ever got COVID, I'm really not that worried. But of course, it all depends on the person and you, right? So
yeah, yeah.
we got to all balance this amongst each other.
Uh-huh. And you limit your news consumption.
I certainly do. I certainly do, because
Probably
it's
smart.
always something extreme.
These days, yeah.
Yeah, and I really don't need to follow the latest COVID updates, because trust me, you'll hear them sooner, within a day or two, from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's in lockdown, I'll figure it out. But like for me personally, in my life, I'm looking to hire more, so get more off my plate. I'm looking to do that, and which allows me to focus on different aspects of my business.
Mm-hmm.
It seems so far this year I got to spend more time doing teaching my child since she's not going into school. So that's throwing a little change of plans into things, because the kid's been home for a couple of weeks, and I know she's home for at least another month. So yeah, got to figure this out.
Right. And is the job market, is there more people available in the job market, do you find?
I think there is. Yeah, we certainly, last year we had lots of applications, lots of interest, hiring.
Mm-hmm.
And we found like JJ, who's an awesome salesperson. He was changing work early last year because of COVID. So that's how we got him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really thanks to COVID that he was actually looking for a change. So
yeah. Same. Cherry recently hired someone who works for a high-end fashion retailer.
Yeah.
Retail, like, who needs to dress well in this environment?
Yeah.
So it's like double whammy: premium clothing and retail, in-store retail. So
Yeah.
we're lucky to be able to have him on our team, and we're hiring for a personal assistant. The number of inquiries was just crazy, and then even the follow up, because we put up a hurdle for them to send in their personality reports. Instant response from 25%, which is crazy.
Yeah.
For anyone's hiring who's a good person,
So there's a lot of opportunity in this chaos, to hire good people and, buy houses in weird situations. There's a lot of opportunity out there. So
amazing. Aaron, thank you again for doing this. GTA, housedealsgta.ca and gtahousebuyers.ca.
That's correct. Yeah.
I got it. Awesome. Because I'm pretty sure I'm already in your funnel.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me again a second time, Erwin. It's been a couple of years, but great to be back.
It hasn't been that long. Maybe 2 at the most, right? I'll go
around 2 years. Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron, for doing this. Yeah, keep up the great work. Keep holding up, keep giving us Canadians a good name down the south.
That's right. Keep helping out those house sellers. Just do what's good for the house sellers, and you'll get deals. That's a word to the wise for the newbies. Just do what's good for the house sellers, and then you'll be around a decade later, like me.
Awesome. Amazing. More than a decade, but all right.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Aaron.
All right.
Have a good day.
Bye for now.